Hey guys, what's up? Devin752 here. I know I've been like AFK for months, literally, but here I am, bringing you another build. This is just going to be a sneak peek for the build that I'm doing. I'm already pretty close to finishing it. I'm level 94. I want to get to level 95. I want to get some gear min-maxed, and then I'm gonna show you the actual build guide for this. Here you can see my gear, you can see my flasks, what I did when I was at Blood Aqueducts. Basically I had leveling gear, all of this is kind of leveling gear. It's also listed in the build guide in the description below. Basically how this build works is our primary link is Frostblink, and we're just trying to scale that Frostblink as much as possible, of course, scale that burning damage actually. So we're converting all of the cold damage into fire damage through the pyre ring. Pyre ring converts 48% if it's catalysted, and the additional 50% comes from cold to fire gem. So basically we're converting most 98% of our damage into fire damage. And then we took the Elementalist Ascendancy to make all of our attacks ignite, all of our spells that hit to ignite, right? So every time you Frostblink into something, they're just going to ignite every single time, because it says always ignite, regardless if you have crit chance, regardless if you have chance to inflict ignites, burning, and stuff like that. So we're basically always igniting, and you can see that they kind of explode, and that's because of one of the rings. It makes it so that everything that's ignited by you, corpses get destroyed, which is really nice when you're killing something like porcupines and stuff like that, so it doesn't one-shot you. Thing about this build is it's kind of a low amount of life, right? So it has a low amount of life, but it has a lot of defensive layers. So you have evasion, there's going to be something like 90-95% chance to evade attacks. That covers the attacks. You're going to have a shield, which is also going to be something like 24% block. So basically you're going to be avoiding all of the attack-based shenanigans that tries to hit you. As for spells, we're going for 75% spell dodge, actually. So we're trying to get that spell suppression up to 150%, so we can have phase acrobatics and 75% spell dodge. That's for spells, but that's kind of too little dodge for spells, because for attacks we have 95% plus the block, which is 24%, which is quite a lot of evasion for physical damage, attack-based damage, but it's not that much for spells. So to cover that part, we're using the replica Mistfall shield, and that shield basically gives you another layer for blocking spells. You have 75% chance to block spells if you haven't blocked recently. Since we're evading and dodging most of the attacks, and this occurs before block, that means we're almost always going to have that 75% chance to block active. But yeah, eventually you're going to block a spell. At that point, that block drops to 0, of course, but you still have 75% spell to dodge, the chance to dodge spells, which is still pretty decent. And yeah, for the main item that we're going to be using on this build, is going to scale Frostblink to the heights of killing actual endgame bosses, is going to be Bronze Lith. So this chest piece was buffed this patch, and that's why this build is really strong right now, especially if you have any useful corruption on Bronze Lith as well. So you could just be buying Bronze Lith chest pieces, 6 links, and you could go to the double corruption chamber until you hit something like +2 gems, +2 AoE, +2 duration. Any of those would be really fine. What I hit was just 50% increased damage, which is absolutely fine as well, that's kind of like +1 to the gem. So it's not as good as +2, but it's still pretty decent. I'm using that one on my current build right now, so I'm not in this preview. But yeah, that's basically how you're getting that Frostblink up in levels because the chess piece gives you +5 to movement skill gems. Since Frostblink is a movement skill, of course it's going to increase the levels. Another thing we're using is replica cold iron point eventually, and that one is going to give you another 3 levels to cold skills, which is of course also Frostblink. And then of course you're going to be using a 21 gem, which makes the gem itself level 29, which is kind of insane. One thing you're gonna see here is that I'm actually casting Hatred by using my Val Clarity. So every time you use your Val Clarity, you can freely cast your Divine Blessing, which is going to be Hatred, right? The thing about it is, just before the Val Clarity expires, you can recast Hatred, and it's going to last for another, 12 seconds. And during that time, you're most likely going to restore your Val Clarity again, and you can pretty much have a permanent uptime of Hatred for free during maps. On bosses, of course, it's not going to be as consistent. You might have it something like 75% of the time on a boss fight, which is still fine considering I thought this functionality or Divine Blessing was lost for this build at least, because you can no longer link it to life tap, right? Before you could link it to life tap, then you could pay with your life, you could just cast it at any point in time. But this is kind of a way to circumvent that. You could just use Val Clarity, we're not using any other Val skill, so only that gets charged constantly. Once you have it up, you use immediately your Hatred skill, lasts for 12 seconds, and just before the Clarity expires you use it again, so you prolong it. It's basically double the duration than just using it once. And while it's lasting, maybe you even manage to restore your Val Clarity again, and then you can just rinse and repeat. So it's kind of a nice playstyle. There's going to be a lot of auras, of course. I'm currently using in my latest build something like 6 auras in total. Looking to spec into Elemental Overload and stuff like that, but for that I'm gonna need a little bit more levels. So it's kind of a stretch for this build. I wouldn't recommend it as a starter at all, so don't use this as a starter. I mean, you could, but there's just so many items that you're gonna need to have to make it enjoyable to play. But yeah, that's it for now. I mean, you can see how it generally looks like. It looks much faster and better later on. As I said, I think later this week, I'm going to post the actual build guide for this. So stay tuned, keep an eye out, and I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about this build, how to make it, and how good it is in the end game. I think it's gonna be pretty decent. I already killed the Eater of the Worlds, Searing Exarch, Elder Shaper, the first guys, and it has quite a bit of potential. I'm not even using Cluster Jewels. If you use Cluster Jewels, it can go even further. So yeah, it might even do something stronger. Might be able to do even something stronger, and that's all thanks to the Bronze Lith update that we received this patch. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for listening to this, and I'll see you around. Peace.
I need more mana.
I shall purify you in flame, Whore of Nightmare!